Said he got a plug on the merch, but he send it through. Lately I've been looking at them primes like they minuscule. Ooh, hold on, gotta see it through. I might hold a sword or the Drake. I got different views. We can't even go out on the walk. We got different shoes. Told you all.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Bone and I bust shots. Today I feel like I'm on a very special mission from MI6. And why is that, you might ask? Because we have the Walther PPKs. A lot of history behind this gun. But before we get into it, I want you to comment your favorite James Bond movie below. And let's get into the review. Alright, let's get into some brief James Bond history. Now, James Bond carried the PPK in 32 ACP. Now, what makes this different? This is a PPKS chambered in 380, which is a little bit of larger caliber. Now, what is the difference between the PPK that James Bond carried and the PPKS that we have here today? The PPKS is essentially a mashup of two different guns. The PPK, which has this shorter slide here, and the Walther PP, which has a larger frame. The larger frame allows you to hold an additional round, and so if you take that larger Walther PP frame, mash it together with the shorter PPK slide, you get the PPKS. Again, like I mentioned, mine is chambered in 380. They do make this gun in 22 as well. All right, let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And let's start off with the ugly. So first and foremost, this right here is not my first PPKS. Why is that? Originally, I bought the Smith & Wesson PPKS that was licensed out by Walther. And I had that gun. It was working pretty well. I only paid $715 for it at a pawn shop. Got it a little bit below market price. And it was working well. I didn't have any issues with it initially. Now, before I go any further, I still would not recommend getting the Smith & Wesson PPKS. Reason being, they had a recall on the gun. And the recall was, at some points, if you lowered the hammer on the gun, it could cause it to go off unintentionally. So being a responsible gun owner that I am, I immediately sent it back to Smith & Wesson to get the recall repairs made. Now, what was the issue? When they sent it back, the gun was no good. I could only shoot 2 to 3 rounds without having a failure to eject, and I was constantly having to clear malfunctions. So I reached out to Smith & Wesson. I was upset, as you can imagine. They pointed fingers at Walther and said, hey, even though we did the recall, the repairs need to come from Walther. So then I send the gun to Walther. They do something, I don't know what they did to the gun, but they send it back to me. It's even worse. This time I can only fire 1 round at a time, and to top it off, there was one time at the range. Fortunately, the gun was pointing in a safe direction. Yes, my finger was off the trigger. I dropped the slide and the gun went off. And so at that point, it's a safety hazard, in addition to the fact it just doesn't work. You can only fire 1 round at a time. So I reached back out to Walther. I'm very frustrated at this point. I'm giving them some serious work in the email, and finally I send the gun back to them, and they sent me this. Now, this is the second PPKS I have owned. This is not the Smith & Wesson version. This is a brand new one straight from their factory in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Now, this particular PPKS I have had no issues with, but like I mentioned to you before, I would avoid the Smith & Wesson PPKSs. Those, at least for me, have had some issues. Let's talk about how I feel shooting the PPKS. A couple things. It is rough. It is a very snappy gun, so it tends to bounce around a lot. You definitely feel this steel beaver tail. You feel that on your hand every time you shoot. It lets you know that you are in fact shooting the gun. I do have a bit of an issue with the sights. The sights they're usable, but they are a bit rudimentary. They're very thin. It's just a red dot in the front, a red dot in the rear. You line those up, you can use them. The gun itself is accurate. I can shoot it accurately. It just takes a little bit longer to acquire those sights than it would some of your modern pistols. So just to give you an indication of what those look like, the gun is clear once again. Hopefully you can see the sights on camera there. But yeah, those are my thoughts shooting the actual PPK. let's talk about my thoughts on this gun overall. First and foremost, it is beautiful. It is a great looking gun. Initially, mine came with black grips. I switched that out for the wood grips just to add that much more appeal to the gun. It is pretty accurate. The barrel itself is actually fixed to the frame, and so that makes this gun extremely accurate. But other than that, I would not carry this gun. Why would I not carry it? Well, first and foremost, it is only 7+1 of 380. They make plenty of 380s that have a higher capacity than that nowadays. And even the gun I carry every day, the SIG P365, has a higher capacity and shoots a larger caliber. That's 10+1 of 9mm. In addition to that, the SIG jumps around and is less snappy, believe it or not, than this gun is in 380. Additionally, the PPKS is heavy. It is an all steel gun, so it's definitely heavy. It has a larger profile than some of the micro compact 9mm out now. And so you're gonna feel this. When you're carrying it around, it's gonna be heavy on you. It's not gonna offer you the same caliber and capacity of other guns, so it's really not worth it. To me, I look at it, it's like a beautiful supermodel with no life skills, no communication skills. She may be great to look at, but what can she do to assist your life? That's how this gun is. Great to look at, not very practical. Okay, those are my thoughts and experiences with the PPKS. Just as a reminder, don't get the Smith & Wesson one. Get the Walther PPKS straight from factory. Fort Smith, Arkansas is where the new ones are being made. With that being said, I love the gun. It's a beautiful looking gun. Let me know if you can find a place for this in your collection. If you have one, let me know your thoughts. If you want one, also let me know your thoughts as to why you want it. Like the video, comment below, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you watching yet another video, and I'll be back at you with the next one soon.